Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Burden, the debut EP from Australian singer-songwriter Nikes, and this is an album absolutely dripping in atmosphere. It's a very Lynchian feel, as I've heard it described, and I think that captures it to a T. His heart, like his influences, are worn on his sleeve in this album, and if Ethel Cain sounds like it was recorded in the basement of an abandoned house, this album sounds like it was recorded on those front steps watching the sun rise. It's absolutely lovely. It feels like it's about everything and about nothing at the same time, like someone venting to you their problems that you can't even begin to understand. I would absolutely highly recommend this album to anyone who would be interested in this sort of thing. If you are into artists like Ethel Cain, and you can hear a little bit of Godspeed You Black Emperor and Slint in this record, then I would suggest you check this out. I think this would be right up your alley. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is I Love My Computer, the debut full-length album by Australian DJ and producer Nina Geraci. This album is just a good time. It's a very fun, bright album. It's not a party album by any means. You're not gonna hear this at 8:30 and by 11 be able to thread a Rolls Royce through a septum, no. But it is just a very good time. As someone that isn't particularly well versed in electronic music, it reminds me of Porter Robinson and Toby Fox, but obviously I understand that's a very shallow remembrance, given, as I said, I'm not well versed in electronic. But if you like either of those, you have a fondness for, the early 2000s, or you play Portal for all of the wrong reasons, I think you would absolutely get a kick out of this album, and I would highly recommend checking it out, even if you don't really listen to electronic, because again, it's just a good time. It's nostalgic, and I think that's exactly what they were going for, and they nailed it. So check it out. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Private Music, the 10th studio album by American alternative metal band Deftones. This album is essentially everything you would expect in a Deftones record and more. It is aggressive, it is angry, it is dark, it is sexual, it is dreamlike, it is Deftones boiled down into its base components. This is really the most Deftones sounding record they have made. It is the spiritus de clutche of the band, and because of that, it's really difficult to speak of other artists that this reminds me of, because the only other artists I can think that sound even remotely like this are directly influenced by Deftones. If you like that sound, then I would absolutely recommend checking this out. I think you would love it. If you don't, you might want to steer clear. If you're not sure, definitely have a look. Even if you're not a fan to begin with, there might be something here that tickles your fancy, but overall, I really like this record. I really recommend it. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is No One Was Driving the Car, the 5th full-length studio album by American post-hardcore band La Dispute. This is the sort of album that will absolutely crush you if you are not in the right headspace while listening to it, and it absolutely crushed me. It feels both claustrophobic and bittersweet at the same time, sort of if you walked into your childhood house that had been abandoned for many, many years, set it on fire, and then just sat in the living room as it burned down. If you like harsh soundscapes backed by the spoken word, sort of in the vein of Tom Waits or Lou Reed meets any punk band, essentially, then I think you would get something out of this. But again, this is the sort of album that will destroy you if you are not in the right headspace when you listen to it. But if you enjoy that feeling, or if you are in the right headspace, I would absolutely recommend checking this out because I adore it. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Don't Trust Mirrors, the 8th full-length studio album by American multi-instrumentalist and producer Kelly Moran. This is an interesting album in the way that it's very difficult to describe the exact sound. It's beautiful. It's floaty, spacey, a bit alien, free-flowing, which is incredible for electronic. The best way I can think to compare it to another artist is if you took the soundtrack to Fez, or anything by Disaster Piece for that matter, mixed it with Module 2914 by Nick Betch, and then played it in the Church of a New Age Religion, but that is still leaving out a lot of the vibe that it gives off. It's an instrumental album, so if you aren't privy to listening to those, you might not enjoy it, but I would still recommend having a look at it anyway. I personally enjoyed the album, and if you like the feeling of having the floor pulled out from under your feet and just this strange, directionless, floating feeling, you're going to like it, so check it out. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is All Is Love and Pain in the Mouse Break, the fourth studio album by Icelandic indie folk group of Monsters and Men. This album sonically is just beautiful. It doesn't really fit the indie folk label, and in its most out there parts, it borders into proggy territory. Lyrically, as I was listening to it, I kept getting this constant sense of these songs have been written for someone, and that one person in particular, that person is not me, as if I was intruding on somebody's business just by listening to the album. Now, this isn't my neck of the woods musically, so the only thing that this reminded me of was Hosier with some more down-to-earth or grounded metaphors, but even if you aren't into this sort of sphere of music at all, listen to this. I am begging you, listen to this. This is just a beautiful album. I highly, highly recommend it. I don't know why I didn't get into this band earlier. Just go listen to this album is all I can truly say about it. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Musical Scares, the debut full-length studio album by American comedic synth-pop group Fries on the Side. This album is basically just a 25-minute long Halloween-themed post involving songs like Dracula running an Airbnb and a pack of werewolves getting murked like Kirk. It's just a demonstrably silly album that you're not really meant to take all that seriously. It's very much in the style of other similar electronic comedic groups like Tom Hardy, Ninja Sex Party, TWRP, all of those where you're really just supposed to turn your brain off and have a good time to some genuinely quite solid synth-pop. It's really just something to get you in the mood for a less serious Halloween. So if you're into that sort of thing, or if you need a very silly soundtrack for a Halloween party tonight, just check it out. Happy Halloween, and what am I thinking of? Tato Jump Scare. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Son of Spurgy, the fourth studio album by Canadian singer-songwriter Daniel Caesar. This album makes a lot of stylistic and production choices that give it quite a lot of character. In fact, there are many sections that rhythmically, melodically, or harmonically remind me of Radiohead, of Caligula's Horse, of Prince, of D'Angelo, of Enya, of Tatu, I think. And, of course, there's a massive gospel influence there. In fact, it sounds like it was recorded in a confessional booth, which, given the themes of the album, I think works quite well. However, not all of this album landed for me, but given how many swings it takes and how diverse it is, I would still highly, highly recommend checking this out, because even if, most of it doesn't work for you, there's bound to be something that does, because that's how it worked for me. And yes, I would just highly recommend checking this out, because it's very, very interesting overall. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is Before the Blast, the third EP by American alternative metal band Flagman. This is a very heavy, very angry, very political EP, and it conveys its rage through sarcastic lyrics, bass mix like a Gojira live concert, and just disgusting chromatic riffs. When this was first recommended to me, I was given the description of Primus if they were inspired by System of a Down and based in Florida. And honestly, I don't think I could come up with a better description if I tried. If you're not very well used to, the quirky chromatic riffs like Primus, or the fact that it's firing on all cylinders from the word go until the end of time, it might be a bit grating, but if you're into just disgusting heavy riffs or political commentary in your albums, then I would highly recommend checking it out. It definitely gave off the Primus and System of a Down vibes, but I also get bits of Maximum the Hormone, so I would recommend having a look at this. Welcome to 1 Minute Music Reviews. This is K1, the debut full-length album by Canadian producer K-Mo. This album has a very specific sound that's a bit hard to put into words. My best approximation would be that it's a mix of hyperpop and shoegaze, but produced in such a way that it sounds like the songs are breaking under the stress of the bitterness in their lyrics. And that specific sound may definitely put some people off. It can be quite abrasive at times, but it can also be very, very cathartic in some parts. And I think that's a very difficult and delicate balance to pull off, which I think it manages to do quite well. The only artists that really come to mind, because this is not my musical neck of the woods, as is most electronic music, would be artists like J Remover and Underscore, but the rawness of some of the parts definitely give My Bloody Valentine, in some cases, Daniel Johnston vibes. But I would recommend checking this album out, if for no other reason than just to see the interesting production choices made.